Today we're going to do upper body workout. We're going to work out these shoulders, some tricep, and a little bit of chest. So what you need for our workout are 2 China cups. Yes, we're going to use those cups that you have. And also we need the 2 water bottles as usual, right? Let me just secure my China cups. I don't want them broken. But you can get any other cups that you have, a water bottle, or any other thing that works for you that have the same measure of weight that you can use to do lateral raises. Did you get that? Alright. I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to get that together. I'm sure you have your place all set up. We have our chairs there. We have our 2 water bottles. If you can get weight, well and good. You can get weight to the weight area, mostly dumbbells. And if not so, you can also get yourself the 2 China cups that we're going to be using in this workout. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. 1. Then we get this timer up. And there we go. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to get all that together. Remember, we're going to do some chest, tricep, and of course some shoulders. So you want those toned arms as you're walking around, you put on your dress, and you know it's all looking toned and Michelle Obama-ish. If you're a gentleman, I don't know what you guys call it, but for us ladies, we want Michelle Obama arms. So yes, we are about to get this started in the next 3, 2, 1, and time's up. So we're going to do our warm-up. Our warm-up is going to be a swing using the water bottle. We're going to do 20 swings times 3. So what I mean is you swing it under and up. All right. So we're going to do 20 times 3. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and of course 20. There we go. We'll put a timer starting now. Walk around. I know you are awake by now. You're definitely awake from that first set of warm-up. You're definitely awake. Walk around. Don't forget your water bottle as usual. We need that water bottle. We have 5 more seconds left. 3, 2, 1, and of course time's up. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, and move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and of course 20. Well done. Our rest time starts now. Walk around. Our rest time starts now. Walk around. We have 1 more set. 1 more set to go. 1 more set. Walk around. 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, and definitely time's up. 1 more set to go. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, and move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well done. No, we have 5 more to go, sorry. Okay, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I almost forgot that. There we go. Our timer starts now. Walk around. Walk around, walk around. Walk around. We have 20 more seconds to go. 20 more seconds to go. So I'll put the water bottle aside for a second. Now the next workout we're going to do is push-ups. We're going to do push-ups. Now if you've never done push-ups before, I'll demonstrate how to go about it in the next 3 seconds, of course. And definitely our time's up. If you've never done push-ups before, get yourself to a wall and move your chest back and forth. Remember to push using your arms. If you have been able to do that before, get to a lower surface like a chair, go down and up. And if you find that easy, definitely we're going to go to the floor, right? There is one version still you can do of assisted push-up. There we go, and chest to the ground and up without rocking yourself back and forth. Please just go down and up. I call this baby elephant, so don't do baby elephant, and make sure you are there and just go down and up. But if you have done all those and you find them manageable, why not? You can even do half full push-ups and half assisted push-ups. But we're going to do 12 push-ups times 3. Are you ready? Let's go to the ground. 1, 2, 3 and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well done. If you manage to do all the 12, whether it's assisted or on the wall, well done. So we have 30 seconds rest starting now. If you manage to do it, you did an amazing job. If you're still learning how to do it, it's okay. This is always the first time. Allow yourself to learn and just pull through because you want to conquer this day. 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds. Walk around, walk around. There we go, time's up. Back to the ground. Back to the ground. We're doing set number 2. 1, 2, 3 and move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Well done. Our rest time starts now. Walk around. You're doing an amazing job. Walk around, walk around, walk around. We have 15 more seconds left. 15 more seconds left. 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds of rest. You can massage those babies there. Alright, let's go for the last set of that workout. The last set of that workout. 1, 2, 3 and move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Walk around, walk around. Walk around. Alright, our next workout is going to be a shoulder press and you move the weight forward. So we're going to use the water bottle. If you have dumbbell, it's just something like that, a military press, and then you move it forward. But it's better to use a plate, for example, because it's easier doing it with a plate than a dumbbell. So unless you're using one big dumbbell and you just take it up and to the front, or alternatively you can use a plate, or you can use a water bottle, or any improvised weight like what we are going to do. So we're going to do 15 repetitions times 3. 1, 2, 3, and move. 1, shoulder level. 2, 3, 4, 5. 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 more. 1, keep going. 2, 3, 4, and of course 5. Well done, well done, well done. We have 2 more sets left. Our rest time starts now. We have 2 more sets left. Our rest time starts now. Few more seconds, and time's up. Time's up. So we're going for set number 2. Set number 2 count is 15. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, and move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, keep going, 12, keep going, 13, 14, and of course 15. Those shoulders burn after the push-ups. For sure they do. Our rest time starts now. I don't know if I'm the only one feeling it, but those shoulders actually burn after that push-ups. But we are going to push through it. We're going to push through it. We have 10 more seconds to go. 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds to go. 10 more seconds to go. Walk around, walk around, walk around. And our time's up. Our time's up. Let's go. Set number 3. Set number 3. Are you ready? Of course I am. 1, 2, 3, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, hold your back straight, 8, 9, arms straight, 10, 5 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, and of course 5. Well done, well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. So we're going to put this aside for a moment. We're going to put that aside for a moment and use our cups in the next workout and use our cups in the next workout. So we're going to grab our cups. I'm just waiting for the timer. We have 5 more seconds left. 5 more seconds left. And time's up. Alright, I was waiting on it. So what we're going to do is that, one. That is 1. Alright, so you come from the side, go to the front, go back to the side, and take it down this one. So we're going to do 12 times 3. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, and move. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep going. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and of course 12. Well done, well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Walk around. You can use a dumbbell, you can use a water bottle, or you can use any other thing that has, equal amount of weight on each arm, and you're able to hold it and grip the weight properly. So this is just an example of what you can use. There are many other things I would use in my house, but I decided to choose on the cups just so you see how much you can use what you have at home to put in a little workout from home. Time's up. Let's go. Set number 2. 1, 2, 3, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well done, well done, well done. The rest time starts now. We have 30 seconds of rest. Walk around, walk around. We have 30 seconds of rest. Walk around. Alright, we're almost there. 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds. Walk around. 5 more seconds. 4 more seconds. And there we go. Time's up. Time's up. Let's go. 1 more set. 1, 2, 3, and move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well done, well done, well done. Our rest time starts now. If you did that workout, you did amazing so far. We have 20 more seconds of rest, 20 more seconds of rest. Walk around, don't sit down, keep walking, keep walking. 15 more seconds to go, 15 more seconds to go, and you can as well stretch, that shoulder muscle, just so when you do the next workout, it's able to hold them through it. There we go, time's up. Our time's up. Our next workout is going to be a chair dip. A chair dip basically can work on both the shoulders and the tricep. Remember, we did push-ups for our chest, we already did shoulder press and lateral raises. So for our shoulders, now we're going to do something for the tricep. Remember, we're working out the tricep, chest, and shoulders. So we're going to work on the tricep. Get the chair, Put that there. And remember, your arm brings up the weight. So don't use your leg to bring up your weight. So there we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're doing 12. 9, 10, 11, 12. Well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now for 30 seconds. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Walk around. We have 15 more seconds to go. 15 more seconds. 1, 5. 15 more seconds to go. 5 more seconds left. And time's up. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, and move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Walk around, walk around. Our rest time starts now. We have 15 more seconds. 15 more seconds. 10 more. Keep stretching the arms and the triceps. All right. And time's up. Our time's up. Our time's up. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, and move. 1, arms only. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well done, well done. If you pulled through with the chair dips, well done, well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. Now the next workout we are going to do is basically tricep kickbacks. We're going to use our cups. You could use bottles, dumbbells, or whatever other weight you have that can balance on both arms, as I earlier said. So we're going to do tricep kickbacks in the next 1 second. All right. So with tricep kickbacks, you only move the forearm. You only move the forearm. So we're going to bend and only move our forearm. So 1, 2, 3, and move. Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well done, well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. We have 2 more sets of tricep kickbacks. I'm sure you're feeling this muscle here. So we have 2 more sets of that. 2 more sets. Walk around, walk around. We have 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds. And time's up. There we go. 1, 2, 3, and move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. We have one more set to go. One more set of that to go. One more set to go. Walk around, walk around. You're doing great. You're doing great. We have 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds to go. 5 more seconds. And time's up. Hands up. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and of course 15. Well done. Our rest time starts now. Our rest time starts now. So we're going to do one more routine just to burn it down. We're going to do one more routine just to burn it down, and we're going to do one set, right? You're gonna do it with me. We're going to do 50 calls and 20 circles. All right. So we'll start with the 20 circles. Hold your arms straight. There we go. With me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now let's call them to come and join us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I said 57, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I know your shoulders are burning, but that's the reason why we are here, because now you have killed your workout. Let's go out there and conquer the world. My name is Evie Nawala of Eval Health and Fitness. Look out for my colleague Peter in the next episode of Tizi Nyumbani. Let's start our day on new energy and let's focus on building the world. Have a fabulous day. Bye-bye.
Nawa mikono kwa sekunde 20 kama Elmo.
Fact finder from the BBC.
The international media has been very critical. The argument is that Botswana tourism makes so much money for the economy.
How has the media covered the controversy on elephant hunting in Botswana? We find out.
How can a community live with these animals despite of the challenges they are bringing?
We speak to an elephant expert on the role of media in conservation.
I'm Fatia Noor at the Safaricom Innovation Center in Nairobi. I'm talking to a couple of young innovators here who have developed tools for fighting fake news.
Greener vegetable oil stays liquid to the last drop, so it's smooth cooking from start to finish. Now with an easy-to-pour cap. Mapishi poa, madishi poa.
This is NTV.
Greetings, East Africa, and welcome to another episode of Your World on this 21st day of October. Hope you had a restful Mashujaa Day yesterday. And speaking of which, if there is a time many of us have appreciated domestic workers who, according to the domestic workers law that was passed in 2011, includes cleaners, cooks, gardeners, nannies, and housekeepers, is this season. I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic has come to rubber stamp their role in our lives, but unfortunately, the pandemic has also rendered many of them jobless for one reason or another. However, even before that, many of them had their human rights violated over and over again in the line of duty. So today, we hear from some of them and also from stakeholders who have made it their business to safeguard the welfare of domestic workers. My name is Gladys Gachanja, and this is what else you can expect on this broadcast. Today, as I mentioned, we dig deep into the plight of domestic workers. An overlooked group are the women who move from door to door to do laundry for pay. Despite the curfew put by the government, the protests are still going on as they fight for justice. A coffin designed to decompose with the body has finally been innovated. We find out. Thank you for joining us on this broadcast. So, on our conversation of the day, even as we take a look at the welfare of domestic workers, the question of the day to you is, what are your experiences with domestic workers? Could be your house help, cooks, gardener, mama fua, and that list goes on. And how long have you ever kept them? Talk to us about your experiences. That hashtag is new normal on our social media platforms, and you can also reach us using that number at the bottom of your screen with your text messages. But before we get to that conversation, let's look at the effects of COVID-19 around the world, and we'll start off globally. Those numbers stand this morning at 41,040,619 people who have contracted COVID-19. Out of that number, 30,625,859 have totally recovered, and unfortunately we have lost 1,129,591 people to COVID-19 globally. So what is the situation in the country? Well, as per yesterday's briefing, 45,647 Kenyans have contracted COVID-19 this far. 32,522 have recovered from the same, and we have lost 842 Kenyans to COVID-19. Well, as the CS for Health reiterated and emphasized, I will do the same this morning, is that do not put your guard down, wear your mask, practice social distancing, and of course wash your hands with soap and water. And if you do not have water, remember you can use your alcohol-based sanitizer. COVID is with us and we need to be more vigilant. Well, let's take a look at some of the stories making headlines across the globe, and starting off with the ceremony at the Museum of Mediterranean Culture in Marseille. French customs officially hand over to Morocco a remarkable archaeological seizure, 25,500 pieces ranging from fossils to engraved plates and arrowheads, and weighing a total of 3 tons. Now, French customs discovered the objects while stopping luxury cars driven by Moroccans in 2005 and 2006 in Marseille and Perpignan. Now, the director of Moroccan Cultural Heritage, this is a first, according to him, both in terms of quantity and quality. It is a historic moment because we can repatriate this heritage to a native land so that it can be promoted and visited by all our fellow citizens.
Dimension internationale, et nous le savons tous, des tranches sur le bien fondé des lois, des conventions internationales.
De la préfecture. Bon, je bouge pas.
Alors, je voulais juste prendre la parole une minute. La carrière d'extraction de la pierre, les circuits de ces objets.
Elsewhere, deprived of an income because of the coronavirus pandemic, Roberta Mercado walks the streets of Copacabana, a tourist district of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, to sell flowers aboard a 1969 Volkswagen Beetle transformed into a traveling garden. Roberta says, I had a business of natural hair wigs, a shop over 10 years old. Before the pandemic, I was already having problems, so I had to close its doors. And I was also renting apartments for tourists. With all this crisis, tourists can't come anymore, so I had to look for something else to do. I also lost my mother during this pandemic, and I was very sad. With this situation of losing my mother, I wanted something to be able to vent my sadness. Now, Tunisia announced Wednesday the arrest of a municipal police chief after protests in an impoverished town sparked by the death of a man during the demolition of an illegal kiosk. A day after the angry demonstrations in Sipetia, the situation was calm as security forces were deployed throughout the town in the central province of Kasserine. Earlier, municipal police demolished the shop in a working-class neighborhood of Sebetla, killing a man who had been sleeping inside. The death triggered protests by residents who blocked roads, set fire to a municipal vehicle and threw stones at the police. Since then, officials have traded blame over the incident and many internet users have demanded that those responsible be prosecuted. Now, the gruesome murder of 22-year-old farm manager Brandon Horner in early October has sparked racial tension in the Free State farming town of Senegal. Researchers at South African Institute for Security Studies, that is Johan Berger, warns that there is no reason at the moment to believe farm attacks are race-related. Police warn no violence will be tolerated outside the Senegal Magistrates Court at the appearance of the two men accused of killing Horner after protests outside the court on the 6th of October 2020 turned violent.
So yeah, predominantly still the victims are white, and as I said, for historical reasons, that can be explained. So I'm reluctant to say that on this evidence, white farmers are especially targeted for these attacks. But we need to find a way to discipline those calling for violence, because they can create a situation where there are violence on a racial basis, which we really cannot afford in this country at the moment.
It can't be allowed. This time we'll be ready. This time we'll be there to protect the property of the state, to protect the integrity of the state, and to protect human beings, even when those people are suspects. People that we have arrested there, one of them has been arrested 2 times, but the other one has been arrested 16 times. Which tells you that this is a question of chain of the justice system, because I would like to know why a person that has been arrested 16 times is still given another chance to commit another crime.
Now, a few thousand anti-government protesters defy an indefinite curfew at the Lekki Toll Gate in Lagos as ordered by the state governor to curb the demonstrations.
We're here because we believe in what we're fighting for. We're firm to it. And if you listen to our national anthem and our national pledge, we are here to defend our unity.
We are fighting for the truth. We are fighting for the labor of our heroes past. We don't want it to be in vain. That's why we are here. We are not rioting. We are not stealing. That's why we are not afraid. You cannot fight a sleeping man because it's peaceful. So that's what we are doing here. Nigerian youths are passionate and purpose-driven youths. We are not cowards. That's why we are here.
I have children. I'm looking forward to carry my great-grandchildren because my grandmother did, my mother did. If I'm a coward, I wonder what my children will look like. I'll prefer to die well for my children to have a better tomorrow. The truth is it.
To our focus of the day, with the measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19, lives have been saved, but thousands of livelihoods have been killed. Now, an overlooked group are the women who move from door to door to do laundry for pay. They are commonly referred to as Mama Fua or Mama Dobi, and Rose Wangwe reports on their plight.
Every morning, Mary Wamboi wakes up and heads to a particular spot in the leafy suburbs in Nairobi where she does laundry work. Hers is a case of living from hand to mouth. Wamboi is among many women whose livelihoods revolve around doing household chores for Nairobi's well-to-do families in the suburbs. They congregate at Kasuku Center in Kileleshwa every morning to try their luck of getting a job. But coronavirus has greatly disrupted the lives of these women who live in Nairobi's informal settlements. With the pandemic, Wamboi is wondering how she and her family will survive.
Sahi hakuna kibarua ya kufua na wamama wanateseka huku mtaani cause tunategemeanga hizi vibarua ndio tunalisha watoto wetu nazo.
Tunatokanga Kangemi muguu kukuja hapa kutafuta kazi. Kila mtu anasema tukikanyaka kwa nyumba yake tutapeleka corona. Tunaambiwa hatuna social distance. Tunaambiwa hatuvai maski vizuri.
Carrying placards, the women groups drawn from Kangemi, Kawangware, Mlolongo and Mathare held a peaceful demonstration. They want domestic work to be integrated into broader policies. They claim their work is undervalued and unprotected. They still do not have access to any kind of social security coverage.
Kama mimi sasa ni miezi 3 sijalipa nyumba mpaka nimeshindwa nitafanya namna gani. Tumehangaika sana, mtukumbuke. Hatujawahi pata chochote kutoka kwa serikali.
Kujitokeze watu wa Samaria wema wawaunganishe kwa vikundi. Hata kama ni sako watafunguliwa wakuwe na savings juu hatunanga savings.
For now, many have to rely on well-wishers such as the Center for Livelihood Advancement. It works to empower women and has kicked off a program to distribute sanitizers, food and face masks, targeting over 500 women in the informal settlements. Rozongoi, NTV.
And that definitely puts to perspective our conversation of the day. Domestic workers highly affected by the ongoing pandemic. And the question is, are they frontline workers and should they be catered for as such? We answer that question and many more. And to help us have that conversation, Mary Campbell, who is a program manager at the Trade and Labor and Resource Governance at the Kenya Human Rights Commission, in studio with us. We have Ann Sabania joining us virtually. She's executive director at the Center for Livelihood Advancement. Also joining us virtually, we have Dr. Jane Kiere, who is a counseling psychologist. We're also joined virtually by Edith Murogo, who is the founder for the Center for Domestic Training. Also joining us from her home is Anna Chieng, who is a domestic worker living in Kangemi, and Elizabeth Muniva, who is also a domestic worker, joining us from Mlolongo. Thank you all for joining us on this conversation. And I'll start off with you, Mary. We mentioned earlier that there is a domestic workers law that was passed in 2011. Why exactly would this law put in place?
Thank you very much, Gladys, for having me. It's my absolute pleasure to be here. The reason why this particular law was put in place is because, first of all, let's just begin by putting it into context. Mm-hmm. This is the International Labour Organization that came up with a convention in 2011 and actually passed it, so the Domestic Workers Convention. The reason why this has been passed is because we all understand that domestic workers work in extremely unique circumstances. The fact that they work behind closed doors, they are isolated from the rest of the workers, is a reason why a special law needed to be put in place to regulate and really take care of the unique circumstances under which domestic workers find themselves in.
Mm-hmm. No. Okay, and we mentioned some of those include cooks, gardeners, nannies. How long does the list go on for?
It is quite a long list. Yeah. So it is that domestic worker who comes to render services, whether they render and live, so these are the live out, mm-hmm. whether they stay in your house as part of your relatives, but they are actually a workforce for you. It could be the person who tends to your garden. The list is long, really. Mm-hmm. It could be actually the person who is doing tea work in an office, they are categorized because they are, if you look at the general wages order and the categorization, it is the cook, the gardener. So it could actually be a gardener in an office. They are a domestic worker. Yes, and they need to be protected within the ambit of the law.
And when you look at these laws that have been put in place, clearly they come out to safeguard, as you said, their human rights. What are these human rights that were felt were being contravened?
It's quite a bit of them, quite a lot, because the fact that a domestic worker is the first to get up in your house, usually, and the last to go to bed. If you have children, you know she will be the first one to get up to get the children ready for school. That means eventually they are putting in so many hours. We have a number of hours that we ought to, that is 8 hours in a day, and any hour beyond that will be considered overtime. And overtime is paid differently. It is actually paid at a higher rate. So you, if you were to work overtime, you should be paid at 1.5 your daily normal rate. So what happens is that domestic workers put in a lot of time in work. That is one major reason. The other reason is because they work within private homes. It is difficult for regulation to happen within private homes, even when it actually needs to happen, because you are an employer in every right, whether within a house. So that unique circumstance makes it very, very important. The fact that a domestic worker today is pregnant, they will be relieved of employment. You may recall them after they have, delivered a baby. It should not be that way. They are supposed to go on leave just like any other employee, enjoy 3 months of full, fully paid maternity leave. But that's not what we do. Most people will relieve them and recall them, so they will be without pay for the 3 months. The fact that a domestic worker is relieved of their duties when they fall sick is a big challenge that we are grappling with as a country. They should be able to enjoy sick leave that is paid, which is 7 days of full pay and 7 days of half pay should they need to continue being on sick leave. So it is all these, rights that are contravened every single day, and yet the fact is domestic workers are not regulated differently from you and me who work in the comfort of an office. They are regulated the same way.
Okay.
Yes.
And we'll look more into those human rights that have been contravened over the years. And definitely the same has been exacerbated during this season. And let me bring in Ann Sabania, who's the Executive Director, Center for Livelihood Advancement. You have worked with domestic workers for a while and you have a heart for the mama fours. What is their situation like, especially during this pandemic? Okay, I think we will sort out our audio with Anne, and let me bring in somebody who wears these shoes. Her name is Anne Cheng. She joins us from Kangemi. She's a domestic worker. Anne, habari ya leo?
Habari mzuri sana.
Yes. Sasa umekuwa katika kazi ya domestic work kwa muda upi?
Nimekuwa nikifanya kazi ya nyumba kutoka 2016 mpaka venye corona iliingia. Sasa hapo ndipo maisha yangu ilikuwa affected cause nilisimamishwa. Nilikuwa na deal na mtoto mdogo, nilikuwa nashughulikia mtoto mdogo ambaye alikuwa miezi 4. Sasa kupanda gari, kutembea kwa njia, na ilisemekana watu wasikae pamoja, na ikasemekana kwamba kwa gari pia kuna uwezo wa kupata janga la corona kwa ajili ya watu kukaa pamoja kwa gari. Sasa huyo mdozi wangu aliogopa, akaona ni vizuri achukue mtu ambaye atakuwa naishi hapo bila kuenda mahali popote. Sasa nikawa nimesimamishwa mpaka saa hizi sijapata job. Hali imekuwa ngumu. Nilikuwa na nyumba 2 na sasa Kwa sasa niliacha moja kwa sababu singeweza kumanage mbili. Sasa saa hii nalipa tu moja na nyumba imekuwa congested juu hiyo nyumba ingine nilikuwa nimeweka kama room ya watoto na walikuwa na kitanda huko na vyombo na vitu mingi. Sasa imebidi nirudishe vitu huku kwa hii single room ambayo imekuwa congested sana. Imetuaffect sana hiyo ugonjwa.
Okay, sasa Ann, tunakusikiza na pole sana kwa janga ambalo unapitia, lakini swali ni eti umekuwa ukifanya kazi ya domestic work for muda upi?
Saa hii ni miaka 4.
Okay, kwa hivyo huyu ambaye ulikuwa naye before COVID kuja alikuwa wa kwanza ama alikuwa wa pili?
Alikuwa wa kwanza, alikuwa wa kwanza.
Okay, so experience yako na wale wengine ni ipi?
Experience? Okay. Wale wengine, kila mtu ako na weakness yake, kila mtu ameumbwa tofauti. Wakati mwingine unapata mtu mzuri ambaye anakuelewa. Wakati mwingine unapata mtu ambaye haja yake ni umfanyie kazi, akulipe lakini akose kukuelewa. Wakati mwingine unakutana na mtu anakutreat vibaya pasipo kujua kwamba wewe ni binadamu wenzake. Kuna challenges mingi sana.
Okay, na tutatueleza zaidi, lakini huyu ambaye alisema lazima uondoke ndio apate ule ataishi na wewe, kutoka siku hiyo amekuwa akiangalia maslahi yako ama kutoka siku hiyo hamjaongea tena?
Okay, tumeongea tena. Juu yeye alikuwa mtu mzuri, nimekuwa nikimfanyia mwaka moja saizi kabla corona iingie. Sasa yeye ni corona iliharibu maneno, lakini at least alikuwa mtu mpoa. Sababu hapo nyuma nilikuwa nimekosa cha kuweka kwa meza, watoto wakule. Sikuona haya, nikampigia simu. Alinisort na kiasi ile aliweza kunisort nayo, nikanunua chakula watoto wakakula, at least nilishukuru, alinielewa.
Okay.
Na bado waga ananiambia kama corona itaisha tutaendelea, lakini haijulikani ni lini. Manake leo wanatangaza namba ya wenye wameadhiriwa imerudi chini. Na kesho inapanda hivyo hivyo. Sasa hali haijulikani ni lini itaisha, na hata kuna kuogopesha.
Aha, sawa sawa Ann, tutaendelea kuongea zaidi kuhusu maisha yako na pia kazi. And at this point, before we take a short break, Mary, clearly she speaks of what many are facing today, and even the story we saw earlier. And COVID is a unique situation, so you can't really hold it against the employers for being afraid. So essentially, what would be an ideal situation in dealing with what we are facing today?
Really, it's a difficult situation. It's one that nobody envisaged. And I agree with you, it cannot be blamed or held against the employer. But even then, the law has not been suspended. The law is very much alive. It is very much in force. So if in the case of Ann, I think her name was Ann, she has to be let go because there is a pandemic and she has to be commuting every day to her workplace, the best thing to do would be to lay her off within the provisions of the law. So for instance, the law provides that if your employer has to let you go, they have to give you a month's notice or pay you in lieu of notice. In this case, I understand the employer is scared that Ann could bring the virus because she's commuting from Kangemi in a matatu every day. But lay her off within the ambit of the law. Pay her off a month in lieu of notice, or give her notice, retain her for a month, give her notice period. That helps her psychologically to either look for another job or to just put her, things in order as she looks for another employment.
Yeah. Okay, and Ann is not only the only domestic worker we have on today. We'll be joined by somebody else who's joining us from Mlolongo, but we need to take a short break. We'll be right back.
We must change direction. For 56 years you have followed one direction but with not very many results.
Kenya imerudi nyuma kwa sababu tu ya siasa.
Halftime imekwisha, wachezaji wameshanyoroshwa. Tena wamepata massaging, sasa wanarudi kwa kiwanja because nobody can stop reggae.
The former Prime Minister has told us about the reggae, which is fine, but I guess we will have a robust national conversation that will bring everybody on board.
How do we expect as a people to resolve this problem using elections instead of constitutional change? Our country is staring at a constitutional moment.
We are Nation, Africa's independent media brand. We are committed to empowering all Africans, from the young to the old, from the curious to the educated, and from the heart of the cities to the rural areas. We are Nation. Join us, because if you want to get far, you do it together. Nation. Empower Africa.
This Wednesday, we launch the latest dual punch screen Infinix phone live on NTV from 8 p.m. It comes with an ultra-fast performing chipset Halo G80, fast charging with massive battery 5200 mAh. Embedded with Power Marathon, high camera quality 64 megapixels with slow-mo and ultra night mode feature.
Finding meaningful stories takes more drive and passion.
Father's involvement in maternal and reproductive health is slowly becoming a game changer.
Getting to the truth takes more determination.
Hakuna. Nilikuwa kilio changu ni watoto wanapata shida chakula. Lakini nimeona Kenya yetu watu wamenishika mkono.
Finding real solutions takes more understanding.
Shortage of teachers, lack of textbooks.
Afadhali mtoto awe chini ya miti badala ya awe na chupa ya glue kwa mapua.
And NTV investigates leads to impact.
This building here has got its fair share of criminals.
Who are these COVID billionaires?
Corruption related to PPE, it's actually a murder.
So these are patients with cerebral palsy.
From what I saw being aired in NTV, it really broke my heart.
NTV, stories that impact you.
Along came love. Do you really think that I enjoy seeing, despite all the years that have passed, that you're still madly in love with my husband? You took him away from me, like you always do. You're living the life that's supposed to be mine. You're absolutely crazy.
You need to understand that nobody wants you here.
I don't know why you hate us so much, madam. You certainly do.
Make my life hell, but if you mess with my daughter, I'll make you regret the day you were born.
Why would you break my heart this way?
And haven't you broken my heart?
Along came love. In association with Blue Band Peanut Butter.
blind man told police officers, afade mimi sijawahi ona bangi maisha yangu yote.
Hizo ma-award zikafanya watu waanze kuimbia award badala waimbe the word.
Mimi mkinichagua mtaona miujiza.
Anajifanya siku hizi.
Kibia mara moja.
Naogopa Mwenyezi Mungu na uji moto peke yake.
Hiyo si bangi.
Do you need to send your parcel or document during this period? The Nation Courier Services, with over 15 years of distribution experience, will deliver it for you. We deliver to every corner of Kenya. Due to our strong distribution network, have overnight door-to-door service and same-day intra-city service with the security and safety of the client's shipment guaranteed. Your parcel is our priority. We'll deliver it for you. Contact us for delivery on courierservices@ke.nationmedia.com or call 0719 038 739.
Thank you for staying with Your World. My name is Gladys Gachanja as we focus on the welfare of domestic workers. Still with me in studio, Mary Campbell from the Kenya Human Rights Commission, Ansabani, Executive Director, Center for Livelihood Advancement, Dr. Jane Kiere, who's a counseling psychologist, Edith Murogo, Center for Domestic Training, and Anna Ching, domestic worker, joining us from Kangemi, and another domestic worker joining us from Lolongo. Her name is Elizabeth Munyiva. We'll have everybody online in just a moment. For now, horror stories of domestic workers going rogue have been common on our airwaves, but this has not deterred Edith Murogo from having a soft spot for them. Now, a teacher by profession, Edith founded the Center for Domestic Workers and Development to give them an opportunity to not only enhance their skills, but also empower themselves. Here is her journey. We meet Aida Alo Ouma at her home in Kithembe Riruta Satellite, Nairobi. Here she lives alone, having divorced her husband in 2002 and lost her only child to yellow fever when she was younger. Aida... We apologize for that. That's not the story from Edith Murogo, but she'll be joining us in a moment to give her own journey in this path that she took to empower the domestic workers. But now that I have both Jane and Anne on the line, Anne, it has been a very tumultuous season for the domestic workers, especially for the mama fours, as we saw on the report earlier on. What is the experience from where you sit?
Having me this morning, and good morning to all of you. Yes, it has been quite a moment for female domestic workers in Kenya, and I want to assume that is not just for Kenya, it's global challenge, because as Mary Campbell said, the working environment is the confines of homes, where most of the time we don't know exactly what happens, and every home is unique. And so for mama fuas, these are the women who move from one place to the other looking for cleaning jobs. It has been quite an experience. Our experience with them is that most of them have actually lost jobs. Most of them have lost jobs because most of them, as you have heard, come from informal settlements. And the high class or the middle class residents do not want to welcome them in their homes. And they assume that, of course, because they're in the slum areas, there's so congestion, and they're not able to afford face masks, they're not able to afford sanitizers and soap. And so the fact that they have to use public means to work means they're at high risk. The other fact is that for a few of them that have gotten work to do, they have gotten too much of it for the same amount of pay. So that to reduce risk, someone would call, an employer would call for a mamafua for every other day, would accumulate work for a week or so that just to reduce the risk of them coming to their homes. But then as they accumulate the work, they will not increase the pay. The other fact is that many of them have been harassed by the workers, by the employer, sorry, so that because of course the work is a lot and pay is little, they have to manipulate them so that they can be able to do the same work with the little money that is fair. Of course, the employers also say they have lost business, and so they have no money to pay as much. The other fact is that many of these mamafuas have experienced sexual abuse. And they have said that now the employers are in the confines of home, unlike before, where they would be given keys or access to their homes where the employers have left for work. Now they are in the confines of home. They are at home. They are working from home. And so many of them would pick them for cleaning jobs. When they get to the house, instead of cleaning, they are told, now we have to have a sexual relationship for you to have this job or to keep this job or for me to call you tomorrow. So some women have found themselves in a very precarious situation where they are not sure whether they clean and not come tomorrow, or they clean and have a sexual relationship with the employer so that they can be called for the next job. So the other fact is that they, as I said, children are at home, and so there's too much work, and the demand for increased hygiene at home also makes it possible that women have to work extra hard to maintain the clean environment at home. So the workload has actually increased. Now, another experience with some women, especially in the Kileleshwa area, is that many of them have been harassed by police. Women meeting around Kasuku Center, around Subuta area, around Makueni area of Kileleshwa. So as they confine there to look for jobs, many women have been harassed by police, dismissed with a lot of harassment. Some have been arrested and taken to Kasarani, others from Kileleshwa. And we have this has come to our desk. We are aware about it. And it's been very pathetic for them. And finally, these domestic workers have also experienced abuse at home. Remember that even their husbands, for those who have, actually do informal jobs as well. And so because of the economic pressure at home, when they go home without nothing, they are exposed to violence, because some of them have told us that they have been asked, what did you go to do? Why have you not come home with money? Why are you asking for money? And so some of them have gotten to domestic violence just because they went out to look for a job. They didn't secure any, and their husbands are also at home. They have not secured any job. So as they discuss when do they get the skuma, how do they buy the skuma, how do they buy the omena, violence starts on, and many women have been battered as well as a result of that pandemic. So basically, Gladys, that it has been quite an experience for Mama Fuas, from loss of job, from abuse at home, at work, on the way as they go home, and of course, lack of protection because they have to move from one place to the other. Yes. It has been quite an experience.
Okay, that is quite an overview, Anne, and thank you for that. Let's hear from somebody who wears these shoes, and I'll go back to Anne in Kangemi. Anne, kuna wale ambao bado wanakulipa pesa ile lakini kazi ni nyingi. Ukipata, such an incident, unafanya nini sasa?
Asante sana, nakusikiza vizuri. Kulingana na wakati kulingana na venye hali iko sahi sasa, sihitaji nipige bei mingi ili nifanye kazi, kwa sababu nikipiga bei mingi na kuna mtu mahali anangojea kusikizia tu kama mtu atamuita kazi, at least at the end of the day apate kitu ya kuweka kwa meza. Sasa napiga mahesabu, kwa nini nipige bei mingi alafu nikose kazi? Sasa ninaamua hata kama nguo imejaa besheni, nikiambiwa nifue hata na 150 ama hata 100, at least ni spend time yangu nikifua kuliko nikae idle. At the end of the day nikae tu na ile hali yenye nilikuwa nayo before. Sasa unakuta nafanya kazi mingi but mshahara ni kidogo, lakini mimi mwenyewe najua at the end of the day hata kama nitakuwa nimechoka, at least familia watakuwa na kitu ya kukula. Sasa siangalii bei, siangalii kuchoka kulingana na hali saizi. Sasa ninaangalia nitapata kitu at the end of the day. Ni hivyo.
Hapo mbeleni wakati wa kufanya kazi ya kila siku ulikuwa unapata kama ngapi?
Okay. Kwa siku ningeweza kuitwa hata na watu wawili. Hiyo ni kibarua sasa. Kibarua. Kabla nipate yenye naenda frequently, ningeweza kupigiwa tu simu naitwa kuja, naenda nachapa kazi ya haraka. Then mwingine pia nikikuja tu hivi mwingine pia ananiita, naenda nachapa kazi ya haraka. Ningeweza kutengeneza hata 1,500 hata 2,000. Juu ningeweza kwenda mahali nafanya tu kazi za nyumba zote then nalipwa 1,000.
Wakati huu napata ngapi?
Wakati huu hata naweza end up sijapata kitu. Na saa zingine hata namaliza wiki 2 kama sijaitwa. Na nikiitwa na nyanyaswa.
Na sasa ule ambaye alisema lazima uende nyumbani alikuwa nakulipa ngapi kwa mwezi?
Alikuwa ananilipa 10,000 kwa mwezi.
Okay. Haya, sawa basi naelewa. Alafu wacha nisikie kutoka kwa Elizabeth Munyiva. Unaojiunga na sisi kwenye simu. Asante kwa kujiunga nasi. Haya, sawa. Sasa hii kazi ya nyumbani umekuwa ukifanya kwa muda upi?
Kwa saa hii kazi ya nyumbani imekuwa nikifua kwa
Endelea mama, umefanya hii kazi kwa muda upi?
Hii kazi ya kufua nimeifanya kwa muda wa miaka 10.
Na wakati huo wote ushawahi pata period kama hii ambaye maneno yamekuwa magumu hivi?
Maneno hii ya kupitia kwa hii kazi ya kufua nimefua kwa miaka 10. Na mbeleni wakati ule mbeleni kazi ilikuwa mzuri, tulikuwa tunapata kazi vizuri, unapata kuwa kwa wiki unaipanga vizuri. Kwa kila siku unaweza kuwa ukipata kazi, lakini vile corona ilikuja kazi iliharibika.
Okay, na unasema ulikuwa unajipanga vizuri. Kwa siku ama kwa wiki ulikuwa kama wateja wangapi?
Kwa wiki nilikuwa napata saa zingine napata kama mara 4. Lakini vile hii corona ilikuja sasa ni ngumu kupata kazi. Alafu hata ukipata hiyo kazi kwa mtu unaenda unaifanya, unaweza enda. Sasa kama vile mbeleni nilikuwa napata kazi, mtu ananiita kwa wiki, ananitia nguo za wiki. Saa hii wamebadilika, mtu anaweka nguo za wiki 3, unaenda unafulia na ile pesa ulikuwa unafanya nayo ya wiki moja.
Na ukijaribu kumwambia angalau kuongezee kidogo kwa sababu kazi ni nyingi, wanasema nini?
Sasa ukijaribu kumwambia akuongezee kidogo kulingana na yeye, anakuambia hata yeye saa hii kazi yake imekuwa mbaya, imeharibika. Sasa inabidi uvumilie tu.
Okay. Na sasa ushawahi fanya kazi ya kuishi na your employer?
Kazi ya kuishi. Kuna wakati nilikuwa nafanya kazi ya nyumba ya kuishi, lakini hiyo ni wakati ule sikuwa na familia.
Na ukiangalia kazi wakati huo na hii kazi ya kila siku, ni gani afadhali?
Unajua kulinganisha kazi ya hii yetu ya kibarua na hiyo kazi ya kuishi. Saa zingine kazi ya kuishi inakuanga afadhali juu unajua kila kitu iko hapo. Ukienda kukaa unajua hapo hakuna rent. Au lipi rent. Hapo sasa unaishi hapo, kukula ni hapo. Huwezi linganisha na hii kazi ya kufua.
Aha. Na sasa wakati huu uko na pahali angalau umeshikilia?
Pahali saa hii, okay, hapo awali nilikuwa na kazi mingi kama vile nimekuambia hapo mbeleni, nilikuwa at least naweza pata kazi mara 4 kwa wiki. Lakini kutoka corona ikuje kazi iliharibika kwa sababu hata ni mara mingi sana huwa niko tu kwa nyumba.
Okay.
Lakini kuna mahali nashikilia, lakini hapo sasa nashikilia ni pale nakwambia unawekewa kazi ya wiki 3. Unaenda unafanya saa zingine anakuambia kama yani ile nyumba ni kubwa, anakuambia kama ile pesa alikuwa anakulipa unaweza katanisha nusu ufanye kama alikuwa anakulipa kwa 400, anakuambia kama utaosha hiyo nyumba na 200. Sasa inabidi tu uoshe kwa sababu una kitu kingine unaweza fanya.
Sawa, tunakusikia. Asante Elizabeth, shikilia laini tafadhali. And let me bring in Edith, who is the founder for the Center for Domestic Training and Development. Edith, you have walked this journey with many domestic workers in this season. Are the placements still going on, or did you have to come to a halt due to the pandemic?
Thank you so much, Gladys, for having me. My name is Edith Murogo, and I'm a founder and executive director of the Center for Domestic Training and Development. It has been a very difficult time for domestic workers and also for all the organizations that work with domestic workers, as you have heard for yourself from the speakers who talked before. So right now, since the lockdown measures on the institutions, all institutions closed that train domestic workers closed in March when there was the presidential directive. So nobody has been training domestic workers, and so placement has been extremely difficult because we only place the ones who we have trained. And I know this is true even for other service providers who work directly with domestic workers because we are not supposed to be having people in the institutions. So it's been very difficult, and employers in Nairobi and other urban areas who use the services of domestic workers are having it very difficult just connecting and even not knowing where to get workers from. So that is the current situation.
Okay, now you mentioned that some, of course, have been laid off and are the ones who are now doing the mamafua jobs. Those ones, seeing that they are already trained, is it also still difficult to place them in homes?
Yes, it is still very difficult to place them in homes because now, again, as you have heard before, employers are shy of bringing in new workers at this particular time. So what is happening is that they are tending to retain the ones that they had hired before, and those are the ones who are doing most of the work and are getting actually overworked, and they are restricted in their movements because now employers are afraid that if they let them go, they will not get any new workers. So it's a bit tricky and a bit murky. You know, it's difficult for employers to get workers, and it is also difficult for the ones who are already working to leave their jobs, because if they leave their jobs, they will not be able to get new jobs.
And speaking of which, you are in contact with a lot of those that you have placed who are leaving domestic workers. What are some of the experiences they report back to you during this time?
One of the most difficult things for the live-in workers is movement, actually. You know, for a long time, it was difficult for them even to go to the rural areas to visit with their relatives. And you know, many of our live-in domestic workers are migrants from the rural areas. So these are women who have come into the urban areas in search for greener pastures and to look for a livelihood, to be able to support their relatives and their dependents, and many of them are mothers, and they do need to support their relatives in the rural areas. So it became very difficult for them to move around. And then number two, going out on leave, you know, like, you know, usually they are expected to go out on Sundays. So it has also become very difficult because a lot of employers have placed their own restrictions. We have COVID restrictions imposed by government, but we also have employers now imposing, you know, another set of restrictions on these workers because of the protection of the households, and also sometimes because of the workers' own protections. Because as you know, many domestic workers do not have, you know, like information about COVID. You know how hard it is to reach domestic workers. They are not allowed to watch TV. They don't have access to materials. So even when there are campaigns to inform people, they are always left behind. And even this particular time, they have actually also been left behind. So many of them, employers fear that if they go out there, then they will not be able to protect themselves as well. And so they may pose a big risk to everybody else in the household.
Okay, now Anne mentioned in the case for Mama Fuas, there's also complaint about sexual violence and gender violence. Have you heard the same from the live-in domestic workers?
Yes, this is something that we have constantly dealt with as an organization. And because domestic workers, like the way they interact with employers, they have a very intimate relationship, because this is a relationship that is happening right in the household and in the confines of, the four walls that we live in. So you find that sometimes especially male employers, they actually tend to take advantage of the female domestic workers, because as you know, in most of these households, domestic workers earn very little. And so to supplement their income, sometimes they may be tempted actually to accept advances from the male employers, so that they can be able to supplement their little income. And what we have been doing as an organization really is to educate domestic workers on how to protect themselves at the workplace and how to respond to these sexual advances. And usually we support them and they know that they can call our office. We have a dedicated line, and we are able to support domestic workers in distress, so that they can be able to deal with the situation. And in many times also we have intervened, especially with the lady employers, though that is also very, very, very tricky, because it means that the domestic worker may also lose their jobs. But normally we would invite lady employers, have a cup of tea, and try to see how to bring this subject and to break this information, this very difficult information. And for sure, on many of these cases, we have won. So, but we have not taken any cases to court, because we are able to arbitrate as an organization and to sit the parties down and to create a solution.
Okay, and we'll talk more about that. Let me bring in the counseling psychologist, Dr. Jane Carey, into this conversation. You've had all the feedback and experiences from the domestic workers and those that look out for their well-being. And at the end of the day, they're human beings. What or how can you describe the psychological impact of everything going on that domestic worker?
Thank you, Gladys, for having me on board this morning. Listening to what Anne and Elizabeth have said, the two domestic workers, listening to what even Edith and the people that have spoken before me have said. Like you're asking, if you listen to all this, you realize then we are dealing with a very stressed, anxious, and a depressed domestic worker. I want to talk from experience, especially those that have been referred to us. I've had an opportunity at least to offer the psycho-social support and the mental wellness, especially to a few that have been referred to us. These are people that have come to us, manifesting all indicators of, high levels of stress, depression, and even some of them turning psychotic. And some of the things that we have witnessed from domestic workers, especially those that have been subjected to these very unhealthy working conditions, like I think it's Anne who has said, these are people that have come manifesting, what you would call high levels of stress, with all the symptoms like the withdrawal, isolation from other people. At times they just tell you, they feel like they just want to be alone, those feelings of deep sadness. Some of them, even sleeping patterns seems to have changed. One of them confesses she doesn't even sleep, a lot of anxiety. Or, another one says, I feel like I don't want to wake up in the morning. Others, all of a sudden, they've become easily provoked, emotional, those emotional outbursts, extreme anger. You notice, something very small. At times, even when you are engaging them, you want to ask them a question, and they, those anger outbursts. Some of them have even turned to those self-harm, the suicidal thoughts, because they have seen like life has come to an end. Some have even turned to those compulsive behaviors like abusing drugs and alcohol. And these are some of the workers we are dealing with, even light in our homes. The change, even in their eating habits. Some tells you they even cook, but it's like they have no appetite, or some are even eating too much. Some have even lost interest in the activities they once enjoyed. Like you're talking of Mama Fuanguo, like, is it Anne or Elizabeth who has said, one morning you go and it's like the clothes have been piled for 2 or 3 weeks. And then you have to wash them maybe in 1 or 2 hours or 3. And then the same pay. And it's like they have even lost interest. Some are even experiencing the hallucinations, the delusions. So we are dealing with the workers, domestic workers that are actually, like I've said, stressed, anxious, and depressed. I think to me, just looking at what or listening to their experiences, that's the kind of a worker me and you, we are dealing with, even like in our houses. Thank you.
We hear you, Jane, and we'll also look at the other side of a coin, because it takes two to tango. We have the employer and the employee. We've had about the employee. Let's talk about the employer right after this short break. We'll be back.
I thought a lot about you.
This is not acceptable!
We know you love milk, and now there is milk that loves you. With Gold Crown lactose-free milk, you can enjoy the richness of natural cow's milk without any of the digestion discomfort. Gold Crown lactose-free, milk that loves you.
Umewahi jichanganya ukanunua choko yako ikue alamu, alafu bwana yako akakuja jioni akakula hiyo alamu akaitengeneza kitoweo. Kuna karembo hapa kananiangalia kameshaka, kamecheka mpaka lipstick huko imeisha. Anacheka na mdomo ya chwati.
Our shelves are fully stocked and prices greatly discounted for you to make that quick and easy return to school. With thousands of back-to-school items, price cuts on your Chuo favorites, and points to score on your Naivas card. Back to school that's safe on your pocket. Naivas saves you money.
Mix of the Week in association with Airtel.
I don't check my energy.
Using data bundles. Get 500 MB free daily, 3.5 GB free weekly, and 15 GB free monthly with every bundle purchase. Dial *544#. Not just for a few, but for every one of you. Airtel, the honest network.
Linda Assistia Mita na Absa, the official banking partner of the EPL in Africa. Stand a chance to win 1 million Kenya shillings every month when you deposit into your Absa personal or business account. That's Absa. That's Africanacity.
Maji mdosi wangu ametupa simu yangu ndani ya maji.
Mdosi wako kwa sawa. Venye Nkirota ameniambia ajui na akimpigia simu ashiki. Hi, guy, what
For the women who deserve more, Moped is now in Kenya and more than 40 countries. With its nylon-free surface, new Moped has unique softness and up to 100% protection. Your skin will love it.
Huyo jamaa unaangalia hapo unamdespise atiana form. Hey, shida. Mungu halali. Kuna day utapatana na yeye ameomoka mbaya. Gari ni ile nono na life inamwendea fiti. Na wewe umechapa. Mako. Do hivi, jisort na umorio. Mjenge life. Usije ukaregret mazee.
To get Jisot na Morio by Vuma, dial star 811 star 930 hash. Skiza na Nation.
This week on Lit 360.
Johnny Kubaya, Johnny Kubaya, Johnny Kubaya, Johnny Kubaya.
Mafuta yamekosa usoni mwangu.
Hey yo, mambo vipi? It's your girl Adasa all the way from Mombasa.
Oya, niaje? The people. Siku mingi. Chief Inspector hapo hivi. Kama kawa kama dawa.
Thank you for staying with Your World. My name is Gladys Gachanja. Even as we understand the welfare of domestic workers, and especially during the pandemic, but as I mentioned earlier, the welfare has also been at risk even before the pandemic. Now, when we went to break, a lot had been put to perspective in as far as what these domestic workers are dealing with the two that we have on the panel speaking about their own practical experiences. And Mary, a lot has come up, and one that stands out that has affected not only Kenya but the world over is the upward trajectory of SGBV cases, sexual gender-based violence, and this has also affected our domestic workers. Now, Edith has mentioned she's had to deal with those before, and of course the same has come up during this season. What should be done to ensure that these domestic workers are catered for? Because you said they work within the confines of a home, which makes it very, very unique.
Yeah, I think really I agree. It's been a very difficult situation. The fact that you're working in a private home means that the world out there does not know what you're going through inside that particular home. And that is why it becomes extremely important for domestic workers, just like any other workers, to be allowed rooms and platforms for organizing. The fact that you work alone makes it all the more, difficult for you and possible for a predator to prey on you. But if you have room to organize, to meet other domestic workers, say on your rest day, you have space for organizing and consolidating your challenges, and that way you're able to speak. That is why the place of a union becomes extremely imperative for a domestic worker. You see, when you work in a place like this one, you're able to mobilize other workers and speak out about a challenge that you're facing. But someone who is only facing a single employer, is a single employee, has a difficulty because even that voice, your voice is consolidated in the power of numbers. So I think organizing becomes extremely important so that in that formation of a union or whatever other formation, it does not even have to be a union. But of course, a union is good because it is recognized by the law, the employment laws. It is recognized by the constitution. That's the best formation. And it would give you a platform for speaking out. There are also these other organizations that you can report to. So I always encourage domestic workers must speak out about the challenges they're going through. They're also our courts are also open. Yes, we have seen previous pronouncements by the courts, very, very progressive. Even where domestic workers did not have written contracts, we have seen the courts pronouncing that even that oral contract will be recognized by the law. That means the law appreciates the space of powerlessness that domestic workers find themselves in. And that is why I would encourage domestic workers must use the available avenues. So it is either reporting, you see, a sexual violence matter is really a criminal matter. Report it to the nearest police station. Let your matter find itself in court and you will get protection. What happens is that you keep quiet today, that violation continues to breed. And you are not able to leave because you already allowed it to happen. You see, so it's important that we use the available mechanisms and avenues, and especially the unions, the spaces for organizing. Those are important.
Now, definitely, there are many who would say that these unions are way beyond them. They wouldn't know even where to start.
That's
so for that, you know, nanny who is at home and is confined in that home, is there a number that they can reach you, probably the Kenya Human Rights Commission, and say, I need your help?
Yes. We actually, the Kenya Human Rights Commission is open. We have a legal aid clinic that is free for all. So every Tuesday, every Thursday, we have people who walk into the commission and they're bringing this kind of issues. And what we have done, just like Edith, we have mediated, we have also done arbitration, but also in extreme cases where mediation and arbitration is not working, we take matters right to court. And we have seen many cases resolved, either just by writing a letter to an employer. Many of them do not want to be dragged to court. I can tell you that for sure, Gladys. If you receive a letter, a demand letter today from the commission, you will come to the negotiating table. But it does not have to get to demand letters, but we are open every Tuesday, every Thursday. You can walk into the commission and domestic workers, like any other person, will get assisted.
And now in this case, you're talking about days where somebody is working. The day they would be off would be a Saturday and Sunday. So again, I ask again, is there an emergency number that somebody can reach you on?
Yes, there is. Can I give that?
Okay, then I'll give you a moment to find it and then you can share it with us. Let's hear from Anne. Anne, wakati unafanya kazi yako, umesema umekuwa ukinyanyaswa. Ukikumbuka yale yote umepitia, kuna incident moja ambaye unakumbuka unasema, ai, aki yenyewe huyu alinifanya vibaya?
Ndio. Kuna time nilikuwa nafanyia Burundi kazi. Then suddenly ajui vyakula vya Kenya, anagandisha unga ya chapati, then anapika vitu zingine zenye sielewi. Then kuna time anatengeneza kitu kama nyama na si nyama, mafuta ya nyama hivi. Sijui venye anaitengeneza. Then chai ni kofi ingine ya black, na mi sijai kunywa ya kitu kama hiyo. Sa nilikuwa namwambia akienda shopping ananunua unga ya ugali na skuma, ndio inirahisishie kazi. Ikifika lunch time najipikia. Juu hizo vitu alikuwa napika sijazoea, hata nikikula sioni kama iko na ladha. Sasa hatukuelewana cause yeye alikuwa anataka akishapika hizo vitu, hizo ndio watu wanakula. Hiyo chai yenye anakunywa, hiyo ya coffee, hiyo ya black, ndio pia mimi anataka nikunywe, na sikuzoea. Sasa hata angeniwekea singesikia vizuri kuikunywa juu nikitest tu hivi sioni test. Sasa hatukuelewana. Sasa ilibidi nabeba food yangu from home, ama naenda tu hiyo 6 mpaka 6 jioni ndio nikuje nikule kwa nyumba.
Unamwambia
ni kama nikuteseka.
Na wakati unamwambia ngalawa kusaidie na chakula kingine, alikuwa anasema nini?
Okay, yeye alikuwa anasema hiyo chakula yenye anakula ndio inafaa pia mimi nikule. Hivyo tu. Na amesimamia tu hapo na hizo ndio anakula. Sasa ilikuwa hard time kwangu.
Okay. Na Elizabeth, pia ulikuwa umesema umepitia mengi pia. Ni yapi unaweza tueleza?
Okay, kuna wakati nilikuwa nafanyia muhindi kazi. Unanisikia?
Nakusikia.
Sasa wakati huo nilikuwa namfanyia muhindi kazi, alikuwa kazi yenyewe ilikuwa nawafulia nguo, walikuwa familia watu 4. Nafua nguo, naosha nyumba na pia naosha vyombo. Sasa inafika mahali wakati ule ninapokuwa nikiosha nataka maji ya kukunywa, inabidi sasa niombe maji. Ninapoomba maji, nilikuwa msichana wake alikuwa anamtuma kwa ile dishi ya kuweka hizo vitu za kuosha vyombo. Hiyo ndio nilikuwa natumia kukunywa maji. Ndio nilikuwa naoshewa, nawekewa maji nayo, ama naosha tu mimi mwenyewe juu hiyo ndio nilikuwa nimealauiwa kukunywa maji nayo, ndio nilikuwa natumia kukunywa maji. Sasa mimi nilikuwa tu nakaa, chakula yao nayo ilikuwa na pilipili mingi na walikuwa wanaipima. Sasa sikuwa naweza kukula, nilikuwa tu nafumilia, ni maji nilikuwa nakunywa, lakini nilikuwa nakunywa na hiyo kitu yao ya kuweka vyombo. Hiyo ndio nilikuwa naosha na kunywa nayo. Wakati ule niliingia hapo, huyo mama aliniambia sifai kushika hata vyombo hapo, sifai yani kutumia vyombo zake za nyumba yake. Vyombo zake za nyumba yake ni zake na familia yake. Sasa wakati mwingine juu ilikuwa ni kazi ya kutoka asubuhi mpaka jioni, nafika mahali nasikia tu kiu juu sikuwa napewa chakula, inabidi nikunywe maji. Ilikuwa nachukua hiyo kasuku, naosha, natumia nayo kukunywa maji.
Wow. And Sabania, listening to some of these things, it sounds like of a bad movie, but it's a reality for many of the domestic workers. For the mama fuas, there has been experiences, and I think one of them mentioned in one of his stories, where some of them get the clothes passed on to them through the windows.
Yes. The experience, Gladys Gachanja, is quite pathetic. And we have women who get to washing space, and they have to be sprayed, like especially in this COVID situation, they have to be sprayed at the parking so that they can, the way we spray, fumigate, they have to be fumigated so that they can be able to access those homes. And so as Dr. Jane said that many of them are actually going through difficult times of depression. And that is why Center for Livelihood Advancement is actually doing what Mary Campbell has been alluded to, that we are acknowledging that they work from, very early in the morning to very late hours, because many of them walk even many kilometers, like 20 of them, just to access a livelihood. And so what we have done is to ensure that these women can have accountability groups. So we are organizing them at the waiting bays. So each of the waiting bays, we have documented domestic workers waiting on that space, organizing them to have leadership so that they can be able to have at least formal groups. They can be able to push their agenda together, providing them with sanitizers, with soaps and masks, so that they can be able to at least move with safety. But we have also acknowledged that as many of them have reported, that as they get abused and they are not aware where they would report. So we disseminate hotline they can be able to call, of course, the national hotline to them so that they can be aware that they can call and get rescue. We also have a counselor's line. So we give the counselor's line so they can call when they're in distress. And but again, as Mary said, that even when they get abused, they don't know, they are not sure that they want to have this discussion with the employer. So some of them will walk slowly, softly, and don't come back again. But then, because they don't tell the rest that they have been abused in that space, another woman gets to that space and get abused. So what we are doing right now is actually doing audits, safety audits in the areas they are working in, so that they can be able to identify the areas that are abusive and homes that are abusive and be able to get rid of them. And even when it means that they have to not wash in those homes, they can be able to be safe. Because as many of us have said, is that as they work in these spaces, all they want is to put food on the table. So sometimes they get to this employment opportunity with a lot of that increases vulnerability because they have to do this cleaning job. And so many of them have actually fallen victims of sexual abuse. And so Gladys, as many of us agree, is that Mama Fua particularly, because of the nature of work, that they move from one home to the other, they are are actually at a very high risk of sexual violence because they have no contract, they have no, an agreement. They just walk in and wash and leave, and tomorrow they may not come. So they can actually be abused within a day. And because tomorrow they will not come in that home, they will not be able to prove that they were actually abused in that space. So, and of course, we're also talking about employers who have money. They're able to change, circumstances. And so these women will say, how do I report? And this is my boss. She has money or he has money. He can pay himself out. So what we're telling these women is that you don't have to work in an abusive environment. Talk to your friend. So we are doing psychosocial support, first aid training to female domestic workers in every waiting bay that we have documented, because as of now we have closer to 600 domestic workers running around Nairobi metropolitan, all the way from Mlolongo coming to Roiro and to Kajiado, that is Rongai and Kiserian, and coming all the way to Kiambu, Kikuyu, and of course the informal settlements of Nairobi. So everywhere they meet, we visit them, and we are training the female domestic workers leaders in those areas so that they can be able to offer first-aid psychosocial support. Because that, as our psychologist Jane will agree, is that is the first point that they can be able to disclose at least something is not right within their working environment. And that way, they can be referred to more elaborate helping system. So that is what we are doing, and we hope that the challenge of female domestic workers will be appreciated by all, and all of us take responsibility.
Okay, and before we hear from Jane, let me hear from Edith. We're talking about the female domestic worker, but we know the domestic workers' parameters also include the men. And you have also been training some men in your institution. Is their experience any different from the female counterparts?
We did not start our program initially training male domestic workers, but at some point, actually about a year later, we started in 2001, but by 2003, we were actually receiving requests from the female domestic workers to train their own brothers. So someone would come into the program and say, oh, I have my brother who is also interested in this program. I have talked to him about the components of the training, and my brother says that he wants to also get trained. So that way, actually, and very interestingly, we started incorporating the young men into our training program for home care management. I would say that we have seen a lot of success with the men, because as you all know, we are in a society which is governed by patriarchal structures. So it appears that men are able to negotiate better. Employers seem to respect the men more, and it appears that also men work with less distractions. And this is just even from a technical point of view. You know, as women, we are expected to take care of children. Even before we go to work, we wake up early in the morning, and we have all these distractions, which are, an everyday aspect of our work. But it would appear like when men are engaged, they seem to really concentrate, because, as you know, most of the housework and household concerns, they actually fall on the women. So it's like men just get straight and into their work, and they do their work. And then, of course, I think they are more motivated because they earn better money. So they tend to take the work maybe more seriously in that regard. But this is just my own personal experience with the men. So the men are there, they do very well, they are thriving in domestic work, they take care of children, they cook, they clean, they do laundry work, they run errands, and they make very, very good workers. And you know how some of our households are. We have households that are predominantly male. Like you find that the lady is the only one who is female. Yeah. So she has her husband and her sons. So many of such households actually prefer to engage male domestic workers.
Okay, and even as we're talking about their plight, and you've had from Anne and Elizabeth, I can only imagine the plight of the live-in. I mean, what are some of the ridiculous experiences you've had to deal with?
For the male?
Both. It really doesn't matter.
Okay, I think many of the experiences that I would allude to are the very ones that everyone has been talking about in this conversation. You know, things like clothes being thrown outside for you to clean so that you do not infect others. Experiences like employers refusing to pay your money, knowing very well that, you know, you cannot be able to complain anywhere. Issues like, you know, like being restricted in movement. And let us make it clear here that restrictions on movement for domestic workers have not started with COVID, actually. These restrictions existed even before, because as we are saying, most of these domestic workers do not have any contracts or written contracts. And their bargaining power is very, very compromised. Because when you look at the power relation, the power game between the employer and the employee, domestic workers are less prepared actually to negotiate for decent terms and conditions of employment. So many times actually they are taken advantage of. They get a raw deal, so to speak. So everything that is playing out on the table of their vulnerability. So their position always is very, very, very weakened to negotiate even very, very basic things. Basic things like what time should I wake up and what time should I, sleep, and what time or what should I wear, you know, or what should I even eat. You have already heard somebody saying. Anne from Kangemi was already saying how she found herself in a situation where she was not even provided with the food that she liked or the food that she was used to. And so she was pushed into a situation where she had to accept, you know, like a cultural, issue of someone just cooking their own food and not really minding about your own culture and the food that you eat. So domestic workers face a lot of challenges, vulnerabilities, and so forth, and especially because of they are not they themselves empowered. And that is why as an organization, what we have been doing actually is to empower these domestic workers with their rights. Remember, after the training, we prepare them with like what to expect at the workplace and how to negotiate for themselves decent terms and conditions of employment. During the time that they are working, we actually support domestic workers. So they call us, they come to the office, they are supported. We have a dedicated team that is there working round the clock to support these domestic workers. Now, there was something very important that was talked about, self-organizing. Just like the Center for Livelihoods, the Center for Domestic Training and Development received a grant about 2 years ago from the Global Fund for Women. And this grant has really helped us to help women in domestic labor self-organize. And like them, we have also created 10 hubs. These hubs are mainly in the informal settlements. These are safe spaces for domestic workers. Domestic workers have been meeting in these hubs, sharing, getting the training, getting certified through the curriculum that has already been created by the Kenyan government. I hope you are aware now that we have a national curriculum for training in home care management. So we are using this curriculum, training these women, doing assessment for them, giving them little certificates that they can walk around. And I can tell you that this has really helped. So the home care hubs are centers of empowerment, are safe spaces for domestic workers. And through them, we have created leaders. So we have 10 young women who are very, very powerful. And they are out there advocating for domestic workers. And we are very, very proud that for once now, that voice is being harnessed, and it is their own voice. It is the voice talking about their issues, and it is the voice that we are listening to, because domestic workers have been there, and we expect to see a lot more. And I'm very, very happy with this, the discussion, because I'm feeling like, when will I leave this point and I start calling these ladies, these great ladies who are doing all these things, so that we can team up and actually build a very, very powerful movement to free domestic workers in this country, so that they can be able to take their role, because they have done so much. They are the reason that we all go to work, actually. I can't imagine if I didn't have someone in my house. So it is important that they are recognized, they are respected, they are well remunerated, they are taken care of, they are provided for, they're in social protection schemes. The government needs to wake up actually and enforce many of these things that are going to actually liberate the domestic workers, because we are not just going to liberate by talking. No, we need institutionalization. We need the ILO convention to be respected and to be ratified in this country so that things can begin to happen for domestic workers.
We hear you, Edith, and we'll talk more about some of those things that have been ignored for a long time, especially when it comes to the pay for that domestic worker. But also we said we will hear from the employers, and I am hearing we have a lot of feedback, especially as we asked you that question, what has been your experience with domestic workers, and how long have you kept one? We have Ella who says, Sijafika hapo, but I admire my sister-in-law. She had her house help for 12 good years, later relieved her of her duties, sent her to college. After the kids were a bit older, she lived there as a family member till she was married. In future, I want to have such a relationship with mine. It makes works easier and everyone happy. We hear you, Della. Rosaline Lakiolo says, I treat them the same way I would like them to treat me if I was in their situation. Well done, Rosaline. Kijana mdogo says, we've been good. Shida ni pesa wakipata kwa mfuko yangu huwa wanajilipa. All right, we hear somebody has sticky hands. Apondi Edith says, Kenyans are struggling to survive on their meager salaries. Might be impossible to hire a house manager. A lot of people are facing the social economic impact of a pandemic. Talam Africa says, okay, next, please consider doing one about how the domestic workers feel about their employers and their experiences. And this is why we are having this conversation, and that's why they're speaking of experience. Monene Nyaga says, there are those who work to eat and have a roof over their heads. Tembea Kenya. Okay. I don't understand what we mean by that, but we hear you. Laban Ombiro says, overtime works in developed countries where they have well-defined and working labor laws with overtime attorneys available to claim unpaid overtime wages for employees. Huku Kenya, I have never heard of an unpaid wage claim. And by the way, even in the US, overtime is paid for the additional hours you clock in after a 40-hour work week, not after 8 hours. Now, Mary will be speaking more about that. Mwiti Legal says, are these hours supposed to be cumulative or consecutive? Domestic workers leave, eat, are generally accommodated by the employer, so the proposal presents some implementation difficulties. Again, something else that Mary will be clarifying on. Ngomo Kahio says, you see, for house ladies to be paid well, there must be a ripple effect in all sectors. Everyone must get a salary increase. Then you can't pay someone with money you do not have. I hear you, Ngomo, and we'll talk about that. Karanja Ndono says overtime depends on the agreement between the worker and the employer. Does it? Mary will touch on that. Motahi Gatere says, I support this overtime. Anything less is abuse. Thank you, Motahi. JJ Ogono says, I support that, and we should have a minimum wage for them in a day based on which town they are employed. Joshua Angenya, how do you calculate these hours? Well, the issue of hours and pay coming up a lot. Maverick says, are these hours supposed to be cumulative or consecutive? I think this is the same one that we read earlier. Now, we shall address those questions that you have posed about the hours and, of course, the pay right after the short break. Stay with us.
It takes a tough skin to live with this Lego. Like, people out there see you like you are a curse.
I love my pattern. They are very beautiful. You know, when you accept it, people will accept you too.
This is not cancer. This is not HIV. Vitiligo is not contagious and will never be contagious.
We take time to understand what vitiligo is and the kind of stigma or life that those living with this condition have to face.
The procedure of reporting assets to Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. Write an email to holders@ufaa.go.ke KE to request your profile to be created. Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. Receive, safeguard, reunite.
This Wednesday, we launch the latest dual punch screen Infinix phone live on NTV from 8 p.m. It comes with an ultra-fast performing chipset Halo G80, fast charging with massive battery 5200 mAh. Embedded with Power Marathon, high camera quality 64 megapixels with slow-mo and ultra night mode feature.
Along came
Do you really think that I enjoy seeing, despite all the years that have passed, that you're still madly in love with my husband? You took him away from me, like you always do. You're living the life that's supposed to be mine. You're absolutely crazy.
You need to understand that nobody wants you here.
I don't know why you hate us so much, madam. You certainly do.
Make my life hell, but if you mess with my daughter, I'll make you regret the day you were born.
Why would you break my heart this way?
And haven't you broken my heart?
Along came love. In association with Blue Band Peanut Butter.
Thank you for staying with Your World. My name is Gladys Gachanja, having such a great, informative conversation, even as we understand the welfare and the plight of domestic workers. And I'll start off with Elizabeth. Uko bado kwenye simu?
Niko kwenye simu, niko kwenye laini.
Aya basi, sasa watu wameongea sana kuhusu malipo. Na pia ulikuwa umegusia inakuanga ngumu, especially nowadays, kupata kibarua, kwa hivyo pesa imepotea pia. Lakini niulize, katika miaka 10 umefanya kazi, pesa nyingi ushailipwa ni ngapi?
Before ama wakati wa corona?
Si wakati wa corona. Hii miaka yote umefanya kazi ya domestic work, miaka 10. Ile pesa nyingi kabisa ushailipwa ni ngapi?
Ile pesa mingi nalipangwa ni kuanzia 800.
800 kwa siku. Na wakati ulikuwa unaishi na kule ulikuwa unafanya kazi, walikuwa nakulipa ngapi?
Okay, kwenye nilikuwa ninaishi walikuwa wananilipa 7,000 hiyo ya kuishi.
Kwa hivyo hiyo ndio ilikuwa nyingi zaidi.
Kulingana na vile sasa kuko, hiyo ilikuwa ya kuishi wakati huo. Kulingana na vile sasa kuko, hiyo ilikuwa afadhali. Ingekuwa afadhali yani.
Okay.
Ukilinganisha na vile hali iko saa hii.
Sasa umesema kibarua ile nyingi ushailipwa ni 800. Ile kidogo especially wakati huu umelipwa ni ngapi?
Kwa saa hii hata unaweza enda uoshe vyombo ulipwe 100.
Okay, na wakati umeosha vyombo peke yake ama umefanya kazi zote za nyumba?
Saa zingine unaenda unaosha vyombo na unaosha nyumba. Ukiongezewa sana ni 150.
Okay. Upande wako, ushawahi fanya kazi ya nyumbani ya kuishi?
Yeah.
Na ulikuwa unalipwa ngapi?
Okay, I can remember ilikuwa kitambo, kitu kama 2012 ndio nilikuwa nimetoka tu shule. Na ndio nilianza nayo hiyo kazi ya kuishi kwanza.
Ulikuwa unalipwa ngapi?
3,000.
Na sasa wakati huu umesema ile pesa nyingi kabisa ushawaipata? Ni ngapi?
10k, 10,000.
Na kibarua nyingi zaidi?
Kibarua nyingi zaidi ni 2,000 kwa siku ama 1,500.
Lakini unasema sasa
unafanya kazi zote za nyumba.
Na umesema saa hii imeshuka kabisa tu ngapi?
Saa hii imeshuka, hata unaweza enda unapika getheri, yani unapika food stuffs zenye umewekewa kwa meno, unafua, unaosha vyombo, uoshe nyumba, upige pasi, unaenda up at the day umefanya ya 500.
Aya, na niulize, masaa ya kufanya kazi, unaingia saa ngapi, unatoka saa ngapi?
Okay, masaa ya kufanya kazi, mdozi anataka uingie by saa 2 na kutoka haijulikani, lazima umalize kazi zenye umepangiwa. Kutoka haina saa, kuingia iko na saa.
Kwa hivyo saa 2, lakini unaweza toka hata usiku.
Si ati unaweza toka. Sometimes mi hutoka hata kitu kama saa 2, hata ikielekea saa 3.
Na wanakuongezea hela kwa sababu ya kufanya overtime?
La sivyo.
Okay.
Ile kiwango mlisikizana ndo hivyo.
Aha. Elizabeth, na wewe huwa unalipwa overtime wakati masaa yamepita?
Unajua hii kazi yetu unalibishanga ukiingia kazi. Ile mlikuwa mmeagree ukiingia, hiyo ndio iko, bora umalize kazi yake. Hata ikiwezekana kama utamaliza kesho yake ukuje umalizie ndio uweze kupata hiyo pesa. Ile mliagana wakati ule uliingia kazi.
Okay, na ukijaribu kuambia mwajiri jameni, kazi imepitisha masaa na pia imekuwa nyingi ya kuongezea hela, wanasema nini?
Sasa si unajua wakati ule unapoenda kufanya hii kibarua lazima kwanza mwajiri akuonyeshe kazi yote yenye anataka afanyiwe, ndio sasa mkubaliane. Mkishakubaliana kama ni kuosha nguo, kuosha nyumba na kuosha vyombo, hiyo kazi zote na pasi, mnaanza jadiliana 600. Sasa ukifanya kazi italingana na vile we mwenyewe uko na bidii. Ukifanya kazi kama utaweza kumaliza na hiyo na hiyo siku, anakupea pesa yako unaenda. Lakini kama imesindikana, kama bado hujapiga kama pasi, nguo hazijakauka, itabidi tena urudi ukuje upige pasi ndio uweze kupewa hiyo pesa. Wengi ni wale wako hivyo kabisa, na namba kubwa ni ile iwezi kukuongezea ile pesa mumeagana, ndio hiyo na ndio hiyo. Wengi ni wale tunapatananga nao wako hivyo.
Okay.
Upate mtu wa kukuongezea kitu.
Sawa basi. Now Mary, clearly this brings to perspective two sides of the coin. So you have negotiated for the pay depending on the workload that you've been given, and then maybe you're slow at your work, so the hours you've not been able to finish your work in the hours stipulated. In that case, what should happen?
Now, it's a big challenge I'm seeing here.
Yes.
And it is because, one, there is what we call a contract of service and what we call a contract for service. So this is now, we are getting into a complicated conversation, because if I give you a contract of service, I've given you a month's contract, a 3 months contract, you're an employee. But I could give you piecework. So your work is cutting grass from here to here, or cleaning laundry this much. And we have agreed that for this amount of laundry, I'll pay you 1,000 shillings. And as you rightly put, really it depends on your speed. But this is piecework. This is piecework. So if you're not able to finish within the agreed time, it becomes very difficult to come and claim overtime because you did not finish, say, by 5 p.m. You see, because if you had cleaned this amount of laundry by 1 p.m., you're still free to leave the workplace, you see. So it becomes, it's a catch-22 situation where we are talking about an elongated contract where if I don't clean this laundry today, I know that I can spread it over tomorrow and the rest of the days because I am still employed. However, the challenge is you cannot give me a daily contract. You see, the mama fuas, what you pick from them is that they report every day. What that means, in the ambit of the employment laws, they are referred to as casual workers. A casual worker is one who reports to your place. You give them this laundry, they do it, they leave. So if they are able to clean in 3 hours, the amount that you agreed will not go down because they did in 3 hours. So in the same breath, that amount will not be negotiated upwards because they were not able to clean in 7 hours.
Okay.
You see? But then the law also recognizes that you cannot hold an employee as a casual employee day in, day out. If they have been coming to your house every single day for an amount of days that can be aggregated to be 3 months. So if they have been coming, say, Monday to Saturday, and if I consolidated those number of days, I am able to make up 3 months, the law recognizes you require this employee and therefore give them a proper contract. You see? So because that is the challenge that mama fuas especially face, because they remain casuals for a very long period of time. And therefore, their challenges are extremely unique. That is why you find the question of working hours becoming extremely thorny for live out, but also live in will have the challenge of working hours, and which we will touch. I don't know right now. If,
yes, we need to understand, because there was even a question of, is this consecutive? Is this cumulative? What are we talking about here?
The Employment Act talks about working hours, but actually this is where I say this is when you realize the law was actually developed by employers, because the law talks about the employers shall regulate the working hours. However, it recognizes that you shall be given 1 day of rest every week. So after doing work for 6 consecutive days, you need to rest for 1 day. That is the Employment Act. But that has to be read alongside the General Wages Order. So the General Wages Order regulates now properly the hours of work. And it says the normal hours of work are 45 in a week. These can be spread over, however, in a week, so that I can do 6 hours today. If I do 6 hours Monday to Friday, then I know I have to put in more hours on Saturday to clock in the 45 hours. So we don't really, the law does not really look at it in terms of a daily, hours on a daily basis, but on a weekly basis, so that it is 45 hours, but it should be spread over in a week.
And the question is it practical to actually do 45 hours in a day, especially when you're a leave-in?
Not a day.
Or rather in a week, especially if you're a leave-in.
It is not practical. It should be practical. It should be, because we have said we do not have a special law for domestic workers. Our domestic workers are regulated under the same laws that govern you and me. So I know the challenge is that they will not start work at 8 and finish at 5 like you would. But then the law now talks about overtime. And this is thorny, and people don't like to accept this, that if they put in more than 45 hours in a week, any extra time over 45 hours in a week should be regarded as overtime. And overtime is paid differently. So for instance, if your domestic worker is earning, they should be earning 13,000 shillings, which is the minimum wage in the country. So if you prorate that, you're able to get the daily hourly rate. How much do they earn per hour to make 13,000 in a month? So if they work overtime, the daily hourly rate should be multiplied by 1.5 times to get the overtime rate. So for example, to make this conversation practical, if the daily hourly rate for a domestic worker is 100 shillings, that has to be multiplied by 1.5 to get the extra So if they have worked 46 hours, the 46th hour will be paid at a higher rate. Right, and which will be 1.5 times the daily hourly rate. So we have refused that conversation because we think the domestic worker has to be the one waking up earliest at 4 a.m., at 5 a.m., and the last to go to bed at 10 p.m. Those extra hours must be looked at as overtime. Until we have a special regulation that looks at the sector of domestic workers as unique and different, we are all regulated and governed by the employment laws that require you to pay overtime.
Wow. And let me bring back our counseling psychologist, Jane, on this conversation. Now, there are those who are saying it doesn't matter what you do, how well you treat your domestic worker. For some reason, you find those ones that are just bad people. They either treat you badly or treat your children badly. And there is some psychology behind this. Please walk this talk with us, both from the employer's point of view and the employee's point of view.
Thank you, Gladys. Very true, like you're saying, there are those, irrespective of how well you treat them, there will be still those that may not appreciate what you're doing, those who may even harm you and your children and your properties. But you realize for somebody to get to that level, in psychology we say behavior is motivated. There's somewhere they are coming from. And that's why we are saying, as an employer, when you notice some of these symptoms I talked of at the beginning, when you realize some of these things happening, you notice some change of behavior from your employees or from your workers, it's good not to take them for granted. Because some could be coming from probably, the way we are brought up, from our backgrounds, some of us are coming from abusive relationships. Some of us have gone through a lot of abuse, painful experiences, trauma, and you see some of them will carry these, these backlogs with them, even in your house. And that's why we are saying, if there's anyone we need to take care of, and we need to be concerned about their mental state, their psychological state, their emotional state, the employees we are working with, especially right in our homes. And like you're saying, Gladys, it is very, very, very important for all of us to be concerned. When you realize you're doing what you are doing, you're doing your best, and this worker still, is still not appreciating, or they're doing some things that you can't understand as an employer. And that's why you need to seek support. You need to support them, even to seek psychological help. You need to support them, even attend these, like now I realize, like what Sabanya is saying, there's a lot of group therapy that is being organized for, for the domestic workers. And it's important for the employers to seek for this help, even for their domestic workers. We need to assist them, even attend the individual therapy, so that they can be assessed and helped. When the early assessment and early intervention is given even to these workers, they're able to perform their duty very, very well. And then, like you said, it's important to learn to appreciate them, treat them with high levels of dignity and respect. I know, like most of us, personally, I'm normally very keen when I attend even some of these functions and I listen to the person giving the vote of thanks. You realize everybody else will be appreciated except, that cook who has, cooked all the food we have eaten, the person who cleaned the place, the person who organized the place, and many times, what we are saying, rarely do we value, even the work the domestic worker works. And you see, like everybody else, everybody needs to feel appreciated. And so with the domestic worker. So when you realize you're doing your best and it's like something is still not right, it's always good to refer them to a mental health specialist, let them be assessed. And I'm sure, given the right support, you'll have the best worker ever in your house. Let's support them. Let's is it Sabania or is it Morogo who has said that it's also important to help these workers get some financial management training to help them actualize their visions of self-employment or even saving for the future, because some of them can even be helped to diversify even what they are doing. The economy, some of them can do even some side hustles, so that even when they don't get that kufuanguo kibarua, they can still go back and do something else. I want to believe if we're able to support them, especially get the first aid, psychological help, they can be able to be excellent workers in our houses. And like you're saying, apart from even the workers, you realize this season, we are not just dealing with the workers who are stressed. At times, even the employers themselves are stressed because some of them have also lost their businesses. Some of them have also lost their businesses, the pay cuts in their places of work. So however much they would also want to pay these workers very well, they are also not able. So it's also important, as you also, deal with the workers, let's also look at the plight of the employers also, because some of them are also going through a lot of depression. They're also going through a lot of stress. So they also need the psychological or the psychosocial support, even as they work with these workers. Thank you, Gladys.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you for that comprehensive outlook on the psychology behind both the employer and the employee, especially when it comes to domestic work. And even as we bring this conversation to a close, I'd like to hear from our VVIPs of the day, and that is Anna and Elizabeth. Anna Ching, ungetaka kuambia wale waajiri na wenzako kama wale wanafanya kazi kama zako nini haswa wakati mtu anafanyia mwingine kazi na ule mwingine ameandika mwingine kazi?
Asante sana na kusikia vizuri. Wale wanafanya kazi kama domestic workers kama mimi, ningependa niwatie nguvu hata kama unayemfanyia kazi anakunyanyasa kwa njia nyingine. Ukumbuke kwamba at the end of the day, ukiwa mpole kwake, unashughulika na kazi yenye imekupeleka, hata kama akupei chakula, at the end of the day unakuta hata wewe kwako kuna chakula kwa meza kupitia hiyo kazi yenye unafanya. Unajitia nguvu, na demo unajitia nguvu, ndio demo Mungu anakufungulia njia. Kama anakunyanyasa zaidi, inafika a point whereby uko tu hapo, lakini mtu anakupigia simu anakuambia kuja, kuna kazi mahali. Ukiwa kwa kazi ni rahisi usikie kazi, na ukiwa tu kwa mlango eti kwa sababu unanyanyaswa ni ngumu sana usikie kazi. Unavumilia ukiwa kwa kazi, ndio unapata nafasi ya chance mahali ukiwa hapo, unasikia tu ukiwa hapo.
Okay.
Na kwa wale wanaajiri watu, ningependa kuambia ni vizuri ufanyie mwenzako ile kitu wenyewe mwenyewe pia ukifanyiwa unaweza sikia vizuri, unaweza fanya kazi na freedom, plus unaweza ona kana kwamba hao ni marafiki tena, wala si wafanyikazi wako, ama ni kama familia. Asante sana.
Asante. And pia Elizabeth?
Ningependa kusema, ningependa kuanzia na hawa wenye waajiri wetu. Naweza penda kuwaambia waweze kuvalue watu wale wanawafanyia kazi, wawapende na wawachukulie kama mtu wao wa karibu, kwa sababu wakati ule unapoweka mtu kwako kukufanyia kazi, huyo ni mtu ambaye kwanza umemfanyisha mtihani, umeongea na yeye, mkasikizana, ukaona unafaa umchukue umweke kwako akufanyie kazi. Kwa hivyo unafaa umchukulie kama mtu wa maana kwako, ndio muweze kusaidiana upande wako na yeye, uweze kukua na free ya kufanyia kazi vizuri. Kazi yote yake ukue unaifanya vizuri ukiwa na ile freedom. Waweze kuachilia wafanyikazi wa nyumba wakae na freedom, ndio at least hata ukifanya kazi, unafanya kazi ukiwa na roho mzuri, unafanya kazi yako ukiipenda. Wakati ule unapokuwa ni kama unadhulumiwa ama ni kama unaona kuna vitu mbaya unaambiwa, unafanya kazi kama unasikia hujaridhika kwa roho, unapata hata by the end of the day unaweza fanya hata maybe unaweza hata vunjia bosi wako kikombe juu uko na stress. Lakini wakati ule anapokuachilia kabisa, hata wewe mwenyewe unajiachilia kufanya hiyo kazi, unaifanya na roho moja, unapenda hiyo kazi, unakaa ni kama sasa imekuingia ndani, unapenda wewe mwenyewe. Upande wetu sisi kama wafanyikazi, naweza sema sasa kama sisi domestic workers, sana sisi mama wa kufua, naweza wa encourage, ni waambie waendelee na kushikilia hiyo kazi na waendelee na kutia bidii. Wakati ule unapofanya kazi ya mtu uipende, ufanye kazi vizuri kulingana na vile iko, kulingana na vile umepewa na kulingana na vile umepewa maagizo ya kufanya hiyo kazi. You at least hata mtu ubadilika tu, acha tuseme hivyo, unaweza fika mahali siku moja huyo mwajiri wako abadilike, akuchukulie kama mtu wa maana kwake. Tunajitia nguvu kama wafanyikazi sisi wenyewe, nao hao waajiri wetu pia watuangalie pande nyingine, ndio at least tuweze kusaidiana, juu hii ni kusaidiana kwa upande wote mbili.
Asante sana. Now, in a very, very brief note, Edith, your parting shot? Edith, do we have you?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
Briefly.
Support our domestic workers so that they can feel appreciated and so that they can give their best. Thank you.
Asante sana, and definitely answer Bania.
Thank you, Gladys. Yes, I want to say that employers have a responsibility to uphold human rights, and particularly protection of women in informal economy. And women, we advise them that they need to diversify their income. They also need to look for psychosocial support, and we are available. And currently we have, I also want to appreciate our grantors, the Anti-Addiction Fund Africa, through from Canadian government support to support intervention. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Karibu sana, and definitely Mary, then as we bring this to a close.
Thank you very much, Gladys. For me, it's really what I have said over and over again. The laws apply to domestic workers just as they do to any other employee. This has been affirmed already by the courts, and it must be put into practice. It's the bitter truth, but it's the truth.
Okay, thank you to all for joining us on this conversation, and some of your feedback even as we close, as we understand your experiences with domestic workers. Lenny Leo says the government must consider these people. That has been said over and over again. Troy Mutua says, here we work for 12 hours, yet we said it should be 8 hours, cumulative 45 hours a week. Wanyonyi says, as a bureau owner, I can say many have been rendered jobless, and for majority still at work, their salaries have been slashed due to COVID, and this is something that has impacted everyone in every sector. Jay Kengochiri says 80% of people who live in informal settlements get their jobs in the leafy suburb neighborhoods. Now, the us versus them narrative will undermine the cordial relationship between them. Jack Felix says Kenya still needs much reforms and more reforms and law enforcement regarding employment sector. We hear you, Jack. Moses says if they work for 8 hours, shouldn't they also buy their own food and chip in to pay rent? Don't be one-sided. Employers suffer too. Well, if you look at it, there is a compromise here. Gideon Munene says this would work if they are day workers and not sleep in the same houses as the employers. Most of the employers take advantage of providing shelter and food to overwork them. Have you ever got up at 4 a.m. and found one of them washing clothes, have breakfast ready by 6 a.m.? Yes, and wait until 10 p.m. to clean up after the family. You wonder why some snap and do crazy things. And yes, Jane mentioned about being sensitive about their welfare because they're human beings. A happy domestic worker will make a happy employer. Again, thank you for being part of this conversation. And tomorrow we shall be focusing on something else, even as my colleague, that is Joseph Warungu, joins us on this conversation, and we'll be looking at contraceptives and the debate around it. Should we use them? Should we not use them? What are the pros and cons? He'll walk you through that conversation from 7 a.m. See you then.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches.